Today I'm going to talk a bit about parental advice. I think this is something that a lot of students struggle with, and a lot of people, I've never really seen any content talking about this out there, but a really big part of the decision making that goes towards what people do after high school is definitely dictated by their parents. And that might be directly through just telling them what to do, or indirectly through, implying and things like that. And I think it is a really tricky topic to talk about, because obviously, your parents are someone who's raised you, looked after you, and it's someone that you've probably come to for advice and see them as like people who are always right. And that's correct for the most part, but in this case it actually doesn't matter at all what they say, and there's a couple of reasons why, but we'll just choose two. So the first one is your parents aren't going to be doing whatever they say to do, right? So if your parents tell you to do medicine, and that's a very common one, we've got medicine, law, engineering, usually it's something that's a bit more prestigious, and we'll get to why in a second. But if they tell you to do medicine, they're not going to be the ones studying medicine. They're not going to be the ones who have to go through that, that process of doing like a medicine degree and then doing like your residency and placements and whatever the process is. I'm not sure the exact order, but all I know is that it's a very long, stressful, tedious process, and the end goal, it might be for you. But if you're just doing it because your parents told you to do it, you're not going to enjoy it, and you're going to be stuck into a career where you don't even want to do it. You don't even want to pursue what you're studying, and that's really sad. And a lot of people, they probably don't understand, like how big of a thing your career is in the future, because like you're in year 12, you're making the decision, and you don't see that far ahead. But in high school, I mean, when you start high school, like 12 or 13, and when you finish high school, when you're 18, that's like, 6 years. Your career is pretty much from like early 20s until you retire. So like comparing 6 years versus 40 years, it's really hard to gauge how long 40 years actually is. It's a really long time to give it away. But if you choose something that you don't really want to do, then you're gonna hate your career, and essentially you're just gonna like not enjoy waking up every morning. What you want to do is you want to choose something that you enjoy, and you want to and then essentially you're just going to wake up and not dread going to your job or whatever the case may be. In my case, look, I think growing up I was always someone who I don't know, I would say I was pretty obedient to my parents. But when it came to choosing my degree, they really wanted me to choose medicine, and I didn't want to do it. And I'm not saying my parents forced me to do it. They just really, this is when I said before, like indirectly versus directly saying it, they were really indirectly, sorry, I'm trying to think of the words, but they were indirectly trying to make me do it. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's not a good feeling, but I wish they just accepted that I wanted to do engineering, and that was that. And to be honest, I didn't really mind what I did anyway. I think engineering was a bit ahead because I was more into maths and I was more into physics, more so than biology and chemistry and stuff. So definitely engineering from a degree and a content standpoint was more for me anyway. But they still wanted me to do medicine, and I just maybe for context, I was 50-50 between the two, and I did UMAT which is now UCAT, and I didn't do that good. So what they wanted me to do was go down an alternate pathway, maybe biomed and something like that, and then go into medicine, the postgraduate way. But I couldn't be bothered, and I didn't really mind which one of the two I did. So I was swaying more towards engineering anyway, so I just did engineering. So yeah, that was that. I didn't listen to their advice, and I would say that I don't regret that at all. I'm where I want to be. I'm very happy doing engineering. My eyes might say otherwise, since there's many late nights, but that's a result of not just my degree. But yeah, I wouldn't say I regret not taking their advice at all. And what I would say about parental advice is there's always biases. So I would say there's two main biases. The first one is that the world which we work in, or the world in which our careers are held in, is always changing. And compared to when our parents were alive and growing up and going through the university, going through, you know, like the tertiary process and things like that, yeah, it's changed completely. So my parents, neither of them went to university. My mum didn't even go to any tertiary studies at all. She just went straight into the workforce, and yeah, she's doing fine. And my dad, he just went to TAFE and he became an electrician. So that was average back in the day. So back in their days. So if you just compare that to now, that's definitely like not what the normal is now. It's pretty much like a majority of people go to university, but then the remainder will most likely go to TAFE, and pretty much everyone will have some sort of like tertiary accreditation or something like that. So yeah, advice has changed, the workplace has changed, jobs in demand have changed as well. Like, look, we've got technology now, we've got software, we've got, you know, AI is coming up in the last, you know, couple of years or so. Well, it's always existed, but it's been more popularized a couple of years or so. And yeah, like just the world's changed, and I think some parents, they don't understand what is in demand and what's not. Because if you told your parents, oh, I want to be a software engineer, they're gonna be like, oh, okay, so you're gonna be like an IT person. Very, very different things. If you don't know the difference, do some research and have a look into it. But definitely an IT person is not a software engineer. And you know, software engineers are some of the highest paid jobs coming out of uni. Like, I know a couple of people who are making their graduate package, so how much they're making first year outside of uni is like 150k, and that's not even an exaggeration. They get 150k as like their graduate package, and there's people that are going up to like 200 to 250 depending on the company. So if you ask your parents, oh, what's the highest paid jobs? Oh, they'd say medicine. Well, no. Well, yeah, it's like a high paid job, correct? But if you take into account the amount of years that it takes to get to the end goal, the amount of hours you have to work to get there, you're not working like a standard 40-hour week like a software engineer would. Excuse me. You're not going to work a 40-hour week like a software engineer would. You would be working a lot of overtimes, overnights, things like that. Unless you had your own private practice, then you could dictate your own hours. But then again, you're doing doctor work as well at the same time you're running a business, because it's like two things in one. So there's all these like hidden factors that like people don't think about when you're saying like an ideal job, quote unquote. Just your ideal job is what you want to do, essentially. Now that's one area where parents might give bad advice. It's because they just don't understand like the workforce nowadays or whatever else. Now the other thing is they want you to study something. And like this is common. I know this from a few of my friends' parents or people I knew, their parents. They want you to study something because like essentially they just want to brag about it to their friends or to their relatives or their family or things like that. So that's definitely the case. People want like status, or like families look for status, and this was probably, I don't know, like, I mean, I feel like every family wants to like show off their kid and say like, oh yeah, my kid's studying medicine, or he's going to be a doctor, things like that. Yeah, like it sounds cool, but that's to the detriment of what the kid wants to study, or like what you want to study. So if you're choosing something and you're choosing something purely for what your parents say, just keep in mind that like they probably just want to do that to save face, or to, you know, like, not, I don't want to say increase their reputation, but for lack of better words, yeah, like they want to say, okay, this is my kid and they study medicine and look how much of a success they are. That's not right in my opinion, but I think everyone should just be happy with what they want to do. And yeah, I think there's so many, yeah, you could definitely find what you want to do, and it doesn't have to be something that your parents want to do. But so don't let them, you know, sway your decision or anything like that, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to be doing that career for 30, 40, 50 years, and you're going to have to go through the struggle of finishing university, the struggle of finding a job, the struggle of, like, you know, working up the ranks in that job. They don't have to do that hard work. You have to. So choose wisely.